Tonight we're going to talk about using the Teams functionality in with the PowerApp calendar that I've previously showed you on other videos. All right, so this is the calendar. I actually put a thing on top for someone I work with, so they knew this wasn't a real calendar; it was my test one. So, and yeah, I'll put a link in the description about the other videos that talk about this calendar. But what I want to show you is something inside here. So, like you'll notice there's a little Teams icon right here. I know it's really small, but it's right there. It is for, let me see if I can make this a little larger. No, that's all larger to let me do it. So you'll notice that there's a little Teams icon right here. That means there's a Teams meeting associated with that particular event. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up this thing. So, I don't know why it's doing that. Alright, as you can see, it opened up the dashboard for that event. And since it's part of a series, it displays the rest of the events with the series. This is set up to go off once a week for like 12 events, I think is what it was. I don't remember exactly. But the part we're going to focus on in this video is this part right here. Okay. So we want to create a Teams invite for this particular event that's displayed up here right now. Okay. Well, since that one's already got one, let's go to the next one. So all we do is select the next one down. This will update, and it'll go right there. Now, I also made this thing dynamic, so that way if you want to use different, you want to put the group event somewhere else, on a different team, you can. So you hit this little drop down and it shows all the different teams that I'm an owner or I'm part of. Okay. And the one I normally use is this one right here because this is my main one. This one was the first one that got created with my environment, so I just use it. And you notice the ID changed. Okay. That ID is just for reference. I don't use it. I just grab the ID from this drop down here and add and use it in the formulas. Okay. So once you select your thing here, now you're going to go in here and create associated Teams meeting. So you click on that, it opens up this little box here, and after a few seconds the description loads. I don't know why it takes so long, it just does. So basically it ports over all this information. Okay, it grabs the name of the event, start, the end date, meeting, type of event, and who the organizer is. The only thing you have to do on this screen is set your time zone. Now, I only got US based time zones. I mean, you can put all 24 in there if you want to. And then your required attendees and your optional attendees. That's supposed to say optional. I keep forgetting to change that. So, these are only 3 pieces of information you need to put in, and then you hit this button and it goes. Okay? So, I'm not going to, these are not required. You don't have to fill these in, but the time zone is. Okay? But since I got something by default, there's always going to be something in there. Alright, so I'm going to hit this button right here. And what it's going to do, it's going to do 3 things. For one, it's going to create the meeting first, which it has to do in your calendar. Then it takes that information, puts the link down in the description here, and then it writes the group event as a whole to the group, and then it writes it to the calendar, lets the calendar know that, hey, there's a group event there, and it actually writes the URL and stuff to the main screen. So if we close this, inside here, for some reason it's not showing. Okay, I'll have to look at that. But it actually writes it to SharePoint too for this event right here. So it does all 3 things with that one button click. Now you'll notice down here it put a Teams icon next to that event we selected. And if you come back to the main screen, you'll also see a Teams icon show up here. Sometimes it takes a second because it's got to pull SharePoint to see if that column's been populated. There's a column called is Teams meeting, I think, and it's a true false. And if it says true, it puts the icon up. If it's not true, it doesn't. So, and that's what that does. Now, let's reopen this back up. Now, the other thing I'm going to show you in this video is how to remove a Teams meeting. So, you select, same thing as before, you select your team you're going after. You hit Remove Team Meeting button here, and it'll run a flow, and it will pull back all the Teams events that are in that team associated with this title. Okay, it found 2, which is right because there's only 2 here. And then what you do is you select the checkboxes you want to remove, and you hit Remove Team Event. It's getting pissy. Alright. Oh, it did show up. See, there it is. And if you look, I know you really can't see it because it's really, really, really small. But it's basically, it's the link inside that, it's that invite. So if you click these right now, it would take you to a team invite. So you click this, it'll open up another browser window, and it says, hey, do you want to open up Microsoft Teams? I'm just going to cancel because I want to use the browser. So continue in browser. It'll open up Teams, and then it should take you right into that meeting. Now it's asking if you want to, since you're in the browser, it's going to ask you this right here. We'll say yes. And once it saves those settings, it'll take you into the meeting. And then you can set it however you want. And you hit join. But since it's a meet me meeting and it's from outside, I'm coming from the outside, it wants me to put my name in here too, but so I'm gonna hit cancel. Alright, so let's go ahead and close this out. And then the third thing I'm going to show you how to do is create a custom email that uses the Outlook connector within PowerApps. So we click this button right here. I made a pre-formatted console thing here for this particular calendar, right? This is modeled off of training calendar, so this deals with 4 different classes that we conduct. And then what it does is it actually is, everything in here is dynamic for the most part. And it looks fluid, so it's nice. You know, they don't have the people. Only thing that these people got to do to send this this complete invite out thing to everybody is fill in this and this, which is your 2 and CC boxes. As you can see, it's already got a description or a subject, and it's already got a body in here, and the body is retroactive off the course title. But since this email is different from what these are, nothing's matching up. But you know, it's easy to set this up, okay? And then when you get everybody in here, you just hit the little submit button right here, and it'll disappear, and whoever you put in a 2 in the CC line will receive an email that looks just like this. Well, it won't look just like this. It looks like a normal email. Okay. So I'm gonna close that. And let's dig into this, right? So let's come out of play mode. I'll make this a little smaller so you can see more of this. Alright, so let's dig into the button here, right? Now I'm not going to recreate all this. It would take too long. So I'm basically going to walk you through everything. Alright, so as in the previous video, what I did for this gallery down here is the series ID, we get a series ID for something, you know, it's when you create your linked events, you know, it gives you the same series ID, and that's what shows up down here. And then depending on which one you select, whichever one you select, that's going to show up here. Okay. Now, we're going to go over this button first. Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up. Well, actually, the button has some interesting things on here too. All right, so literally all this button has is a variable that I put in here. It's called GV for global variable. Create team meeting. I set it to true. Okay, that's for my container. Okay, the container that pops up is controlled by that variable. So we'll go right here. We're going to hit create teams meeting. Now what it does as well is it carries a variable into this container, and that's where I get all this information. Okay, so like this one grabs the text from the title and brings it in here. This label is actually a combination of fields, and it's taking the date picker and then adding the hour and minute with it. But the reason I did it this way is because the hours and minutes in the calendar is a sequence. So it goes 0 to 11 or 0 to 59. And since you can't make them double digits using the sequence command, what I did is I just have it count the number of characters, and if it's only got one character, it puts a leading 0 on there. So like anything from 0 to 9 will have a preceding 0. Anything else is just as is. And I did that for the hours and the minutes. And as you can see right here, it's just a concatenation. It's encapsulating the whole statement here in a date time value. And it says, I want you to format the text of this date picker so it's month/day/year. Okay. When you only put one M or one D, that just means if it's only got one character, leave one character. If it's got two M's and two D's, it'll make them two characters mandatory. Oh, why I'm so tired tonight. All right, so and after that, it puts a space, as you can see right here. Concatenates a space, and it's only got one single operand there, and then it combines it with the hour figure. Then it puts a colon, and then it puts the minutes, and then it converts it to a date time value. Okay, the start date and the end date are the same way, but you notice the time looks natural. So let me move this down a little bit. Oops, I didn't mean to grab that. I meant to grab the container. There we go. Move this down a little bit. You'll see it says 9 and 0 here and 10 and 0. But you see when it pulls it across, it looks the way it's supposed to. Now, the type of event is basically pulling from this field. Organizer is pulling from this one. Now, you can pull it into a collection, do the same thing. It'd actually probably be a little easier. Now, these three are selectable. Those are the three that are necessary for this one's necessary, these two are not. Now, let's take a look at our execution command. Like I said, it does three things. I'm going to make the typing a little bigger so you can see it. That should be good enough. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're setting a variable called GV new teams meeting URL. So this is going to store our URL from our invite that we're about to create. Okay, it's using the Teams connector and using the create Teams meeting function. Now, since this won't work with anything outside your local calendar. I mean, it's going to add it to your calendar, so it's not a big deal. You can always remove it later. But I need to get that URL from that invite. So, first item is the name of your calendar. Okay, the display name. Next thing to do is I'm adding my title, my start date, my end date. I think the true is online meeting, if I remember right. And then this has to be in here just like this. Teams for Business. It's looking for the API connection. Okay, here's where you put your required attendees in. Since I'm using multiple select people pickers, I have to put it in a string value so it goes back in. So it goes into the field properly. Same thing for the optional. And then location is, it's a record field, so you have to put it in a record format using the curly braces. And then when it creates this, I'm pulling this property out of the whole command and getting it's the join URL. See now there's the online meeting property is a record, and then inside that record there's a join URL field, and that's what I'm pulling out. It needs to be a text, otherwise this won't work. Okay, so that's the first thing it does. Second thing it does, it adds it to my group. So I am doing Office 365 groups, create calendar event. So I am creating a calendar event on my group. Only thing, if I could create this URL from here, I'd do it, but it doesn't give me the option. Okay, just lets me fill in the normal calendar stuff. So what I did is I'm gonna put, there's a HTML text or a rich text box in the description. So what I did is I pre-formatted the body, and then I put that URL at the bottom of it, of everything. You just can't see it here, but it's the rich text editor here. When I get done going over this, I'll show you where that rich text editor is. But this is the field right here. Okay, so we're doing the title, the start, the end, the body, and location. Okay, and like I said, the key to this body is the rich text editor, and I'm putting in a format of HTML. You can do plain text, you can do rich text. I just do HTML, it's easier. That's what I'm familiar with. Okay, and then the third thing, okay, once it creates this event, then it comes down here, and now I'm writing the pertinent information I need to my SharePoint list. So I'm patching my calendar view.calendar data source using gal series 1.selected as my record, which is the gallery that I opened up before I went into the team meeting creation. And I'm updating 4 things. I'm updating the team meeting created to true. That's what tells it to put the little icons everywhere. The link display name, which is just a text field for, the label that goes on the URL. The link URL, which is the actual URL, so there's that variable again. And then the link invite. The link invite is a combination of the two. So this is an actual hyperlink. So we're doing an ahref, and then my variable URL, and closing it, my label, and then putting my closing A tag at the end. So it does all 3 of those things when you push the button. Now the rich text editor is this right here. Okay, and if you look at the rich text editor, it's not as simple as it looks. Okay, it's grabbing the text from your description of the event and then adding the URL at the end of that. As you can see, here's that's the link that I get created from that invite. Okay, so it does all that. Now, if you want to do the whole series, that's what this button is for. Okay, this is essentially the same thing, except it's doing a for all. So it's looking at all the items in the series, and it's patching the information. Okay, so let's go back here, and that's this part. Okay, Now I did notice a mistake on here. I didn't I didn't adjust this with remove teams meeting, so it doesn't work quite the way it's supposed to. But I'm still going to show you how it works. Okay. So you go to the remove team meeting. It's going to load your events in there. Okay. Oh, I guess it did actually remove it. Okay. So it's only showing one now. So what you do is you select which one you want to remove. Right. It's just a simple checkbox. But here you have another for all. So the for all is only for the ones that are selected. Okay, as you see here, here's our gallery, but we're filtering the gallery by the checkbox.value. And if they're not true, it's going to ignore them. And it'll collect the ones that say true. It'll create you like a little collection, so to speak. And then we're going to do a get groups events dot run. I got a flow called get group events. Okay, and it actually does all the heavy lifting for this operation. Okay, and then inside this flow, I have several different features because you get your CRUD operations, right? You get your create, um, your modify, your delete, your put, your patch, all that stuff, right? This is doing the delete function, and then it's basically taking the record .value .event ID from here and cycling through them all until they're all gone. I tried to do a reset on the checkbox, but it doesn't work right, so that's why it's highlighted in red. And then I set this back to false, which closes the window, which is this window right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and close the window. And then the last thing we do. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the flow. I'm sorry I'm yawning so much. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I'm trying not to yawn, but it's just coming out anyways. So we're going to open up our flow through here. Get group events, right? So we edit here. Give me a moment, and we'll load this out. All right. So it looks simple, right? You got your PowerApp v2, and I'm pulling in the team's ID, whatever action I want to do, and the event ID. The event ID is just the ID that gets put on the event so you can identify the event. And the team ID is which team we're going into. So come in here, and I'm pulling in an action variable, and it's saying, okay, is it a get or is it a delete? Because I'm doing both operations here. All right. So since it isn't get, it's delete, it's going to go over to the no side. Okay, we got a delete event, we got collect events after delete, and then we got the select fields after delete, and then it brings them back. So basically what happens is it deletes the event, it repulls everything from the group, and then it sends it back to PowerApps. So it updates the collection. Okay, so in here, this does what's called an API graph call. Okay, so it goes through and does the graph call, and it says groups, team ID, events, event ID. So this actually targets down to the event, and it says, I want you to delete it. Okay, and then you come down here. Now it's doing a get from basically the same exact call. Okay, except there's no event ID because we're trying to up here we're working on a single record. Down here, because down here I'm working on a table. I'm trying to pull everything back that's still there. And then the select fields after delete, these are the fields I pull out of the call that I want to retain to send back to PowerApps. The rest it's going to ignore. And then I take the body of this step right here, which is it's a JSON. It comes back in the form of JSON, and I push it back into PowerApps. Now, inside PowerApps, the this remove Teams meeting thing right here, it's a little strange because it it's classified as an untyped object. So if I click right here, you'll see this is untyped object. So basically what I did is I pulled the JSON back in, I parsed it in PowerApps, which brings it back as an untyped object because it can't identify the data type because it came back as JSON. You know, they don't know if it's a date, they don't know if it's a number, they don't know if it's a date time, or text, or whatever. You have to tell it what it is, okay? And this thing brings it back in the form of a table. See, if you go right here, actually, let's go back to, I think it's right here. Yep, that's it. You'll notice when we did our call here to Power Automate, I'm doing a parse JSON on the results. Okay, so this response right here is that variable that gets pushed back into PowerApps. So I'm taking the response variable and pushing that data into GV-JSON event 1. Okay. So when it's here, it's just, oh, I guess I didn't need to bring it down that far, huh? It's coming back as an untyped object, but you notice it's just text right here, right? Even though it's got multiple records in it, it's still text. Okay, so when you go into this, what I'm doing first off on here is I'm taking that variable and I'm converting it into a table. So it has multiple, now this has only got one because there's only one event here, but you can have 10, 20. It'll list them vertically, but it still says untyped. So it still doesn't know anything. Where you identify the data types is inside your labels or your text inputs or whatever you're putting into your gallery here. So like when you say I select this first one, you'll notice it says this item dot value dot and then whatever headers on that, or whichever columns on the column header is on that particular object that you're trying to pull in here. Okay, I'm trying to get to the subject, so it brings subject, but you still got to identify the data type. You can't just put this item dot value dot subject. It doesn't work that way. Same thing for the time. Date time value. Date time value. Okay, so you're telling PowerApps what. See, date time. You're telling PowerApps what kind of data that is because it can't tell. Okay. Now, on the remove. Yeah, we went through this already. And that's basically all three things. What I'll do is I'll document these formulas. I'll try to make it so you know exactly what data goes into each part of the formulas. I mean, they're pretty simple. They're not horrible. Even the API calls, you can go to the Graph Explorer and pull that stuff out pretty easily. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have some suggestions or some ideas where you'd like to see me put in this calendar, send them to me. I'll probably put them in. I'm not against new ideas, and I hope you guys have a good day.